With transfer dealings at Portman Road feeling half the world away, is this the week where Mark Ashton's master plan becomes clear so he can say to the town faithful, stand by me and stop crying your heart out? Or will it be a case of don't look back in anger in September? Be here now as we talk tonight about all that and more on Blue Monday, an Ipswich Town podcast. I think we might have peaked with that intro, guys. That might be the best of the season. Evening to everyone, or morning if you're listening back in podcast land. It's Rich. I'm here with Seb and Joe. And you feeling the kind of summer mood, guys? The gigs and Oasis and all that kind of stuff. Ed Sheeran next week, or are you a little bit trepidatious about the lack of business so far? Seb, we'll start with you. How are you? What's your mood right now, mate?
I'm good. I feel left out because you guys look resplendent in your respective home shirts, and I'm just wearing a boring blue t-shirt. So a bit left out there. That's my fault. But no, I feel good. I appreciate people are worried about signings. I'm sure we will discuss that as the podcast goes on. But looking forward to Ed Sheeran next week. And that intro was excellent, by the way. Fair play. That's probably the best one you've ever done.
Thanks, man. You just got to roll with it, haven't you? Joe, what's your mood?
Yeah, similar to you. Pretty excited about the gigs, but I guess we just need to see how many more Oasis song titles we can drop into the rest of the pod. It's almost like an Easter egg on this one here, isn't it? So
yeah, I mean, if you're out there in chat land, just go let it out in the chat. Let us know how you're feeling. We know we've got people all around the world as well, so just let us know you're there. Nick's here.
Anyone in Colombia?
Wait, there you go. Yeah. Who knows? We'll find out later, Joe. Nick, love the home, not so the way. Red, hopefully a great third. We'll talk more about kits later on. Neil's getting the new shirts now for these much needed additions. He says Gary is tapped into the little bit of nervousness around. Anyone else a little bit of concern by lack of signings? By this point last year, we'd only signed Amari and Ben Johnson, but the season was a week further away, wasn't it? But we'll talk more about signings definitely later on. Brandon bringing up Kayusta. Do we want to deal with Kayusta now, Seb? Do you want to get that off your chest? That's a bit of a sad situation. Off to Besiktas on loan.
Yeah, see, we all got hopeful, didn't we? McKenna kind of did his I'd like him for my birthday thing at the end of season dinner, and there was hints towards the end when he played against West Ham on the final day that he might be involved, and they did kind of lay the groundwork and said there's a lot that has to be done for that deal to go through, and it looks like he's off to the Turkish Super League. He seems to have been offered out sort of here, there, and everywhere. You don't know how much of it is true and how much of it is just agent talk, but Napoli clearly want to move him on. I guess we're kind of split a bit, aren't we, between how kind of good he was last season and is he robust enough for a championship campaign? Probably not, but McKenna clearly wanted to keep him, so therefore I guess you have to count it as one that has slipped through the net this time.
Yeah, Adrian mentioning maybe we have to wait for quality signings. Evening to Colin, who says similar. We have to be patient. Do you subscribe to that, Joe, or are you? Yeah, well, quality. Our ambition is usually quite high, isn't it? I think that's maybe the thing at play here.
It is, and like I said, we are having to be patient. I don't know if we have to be patient, but we are having to be as fans at the moment. But it's, I think the club. I'm not saying they don't do themselves any favours, but towards the end of the season, when we're there, and we were obviously relegated very early on, 4 or 5 weeks left. Kieran McKenna was asked in the press conferences about signings at this stage, and it was like, yes, it does help us know what division we're going to be in next year. We've already started talking to targets and that side of things. So I think you expect things to happen quite quickly. And I know there's talk of, if you want to wait, you might have to wait for your top targets, which I'm sure is the case. But ultimately, we've lost our starting right back. We've lost now our starting central midfielder in Jens Kayust, and we've lost our starting striker in Liam Delap. We knew Delap was going, but there's 3 people we've wanted to keep in the building: Cameron Burgess, Axel Tuanzebe, and Jens Kayust, and we haven't been able to keep any of them in the building so far, which isn't ideal. I know there's different reasons for him. Axel Tuanzebe moved back to Northwest, moved back home, got a Premier League contract for another year. Cameron Burgess, keeping him as a backup was always going to be difficult. And Jens Kayust, I don't know, the fee for Kayust seems small, doesn't it? €1 million and 6.5 million. So I'm sure we could have matched that if we wanted to, I'm sure we did match that, and would have agreed something Napoli, but weren't able to get it over the line. So, yeah, not brilliant at the moment. So we go into pre-season. I think we're back fully on Monday. We go to Austria Monday week. So hopefully you get a couple of additions in before the pre-season tour. I know last year on the pre-season tour, we obviously signed Arrow Murich while we're on the tour. We went out to meet us out there, didn't there? And we had Hutchinson and Ben Johnson in at that stage. And did we have anyone else in for the tour?
No. Well, I think Delap and Grievestein within 24 hours of each other about halfway through July, didn't they?
Yeah.
So I think we probably went out there without those guys at that point.
Yeah, it's just the season starts obviously a fair bit earlier. And obviously what held things up last year was that the Kieran McKenna saga, effectively, which we haven't really had this year. So you'd hope we're a long way down the line. And hopefully there's just a few of these dominoes that we're just waiting to fall. And all of a sudden, one becomes two, becomes three very quickly. I know we've signed one in David Button last week, which I'm sure we'll come on to. But we all know the areas where we're weak. You don't really want to be going into even your pre-season games when you've only got Sam Morsey, Cameron Humphreys and Jack Taylor as your midfielders. I'd imagine even putting a team out, you're probably going to have Finley Barbrook or someone amongst the first team at the moment. So, yeah, I'm in the frustrated, probably rather concerned camp, and I'm sure the club are very frustrated as well because they'd have liked him in. I'm sure Kieran McKenna's frustrated. I'm sure Mark Ashton's frustrated. But yeah, hopefully something starts to move on that soon.
Yeah. As Charlie D says, no need for gas panic around the lack of signings. There you go. Was Finley Barbrook involved
this morning?
There you go. Keep them coming, folks. Keep them coming. Was Finley Barbrook involved yesterday, Joe? You were at the first kind of under 21s friendly, weren't you? And a couple of trialists. Do you want to give us a roundup of that?
Yeah. He wasn't involved yesterday. So we played Lowestoft, beat them 4-2 yesterday. It was quite a good game. I think there's about 500 or 600 there at whatever Lowestoft's ground is called, Crown Meadow, is it there? But yeah, it's a good attendance, nice crowd. There's one idiot there walking around in a Norwich shirt that sort of annoyed me, but I didn't say anything, don't worry. And then had a sort of won it up for a try, just for a deflected shot. Woody Williamson then sort of had a bit of a shocker for a goal. He sort of came out and got caught. And I'd missed the first 10 minutes because I traffic getting up to Lowestoft. I think that was the second time he did that in the game, got punched on the second one. But there in the second half, scored 3 good goals. Afai Adebayo, Jamie Morg and Tom Taylor right at the end. But I guess the most interesting things are from a first team point of view, which everyone is most interested in, is Tom Taylor, who'd been on the bench a number of times towards the end of the season, played a half, as everyone bar Afi Adebayo. He played 90 minutes, everyone else played 45. So he's obviously back down with the 21s rather than with the first team. And then Somto Boniface, who had also been there. He was there and he was sitting on the bench and had some sort of like tape around his knee. So I don't know whether he was down with them or just going along because they're his mates. But as I mentioned before, Afi Adebayo was the only guy that played 90 minutes, but he was the left back. So I don't know whether the plan was for Boniface to play 45 and him to play 45. And then when he got there, they weren't able to, or that. So that's obviously just me guessing what's happened. But yeah, it was interesting that I said there was 22 players there, then only 21 played, and the guy that didn't play is a left back, and the left back played 90 minutes. So yeah, maybe Boniface and Taylor are back down with the 21s. I don't know. I guess we'll see more when some photos get released, or we see a squad for the camp that goes to Austria. I guess is the number one. This is what's happening this season one.
But nice to have football back in some form or another, Joe.
Yeah, it's good to get down. It was started off a nice day, got quite windy by the end of it. But yeah, this is the sort of joys of July and August, sort of heading around the Suffolk non-league ground, seeing a few players, seeing who's had their big growth spurts from last year, who looks like. Because sometimes some of these boys come back and you think, wow, this is a real big change from where you were at the end of last year. So it's just seeing who's making a step up to the first team. I'd say Finley Barbrook was one who wasn't there. Leon Ayinde, who's sort of midfielder, can play a bit further forward. He wasn't involved yesterday, but you don't know whether they're injured or not involved or looking at a loan or going that way. But yeah, we'll know more soon.
Talking of games, that's the best segue I can do. I'm running out of Oasis song tracks now. We had the first round of Sky game announcements, Seb. As someone who is having to make a couple of Friday trips, or at least one Friday trip early doors, it's not a surprise that we're heavily featured, but it's I've forgotten how annoying it is. We didn't really get involved last year in this, did we?
No, it's a consequence of being the pre-season favourites, isn't it? And I quite like the way they do it in bulk this time, so you kind of know where you stand. The next lot are out at the end of July, aren't they? Up until presume somewhere deep into November or December maybe. So I like the fact that you can get slightly more time to plan these things out. The changes obviously with the Southampton game, which went from the Saturday to the Sunday midday or 12:30 kickoff. Bromley, the first round of the League Cup game, is on Sky, and then Sheffield United came forward from a Saturday 3 p.m. to a Friday 8 p.m. under the lights at Portman. We always knew the Birmingham game was on Sky when the fixtures were announced, so get used to it. I mean, didn't lead to something crazy like 9 or 10 3 p.m. kickoffs last season. That's pretty much how it's going to be through the season. If it carries on that way, it means we're doing something right and we're at the right end of the table and people want to watch us. Like you say, we kind of forget what it was like, because apart from, was it Man City and Man United, do we have any other 4 p.m. Sky games on the telly last year? I can't think of that many more. So obviously the back end of the Championship season, we were kind of being moved here, there and everywhere. So a little bit frustrating. It is what it is, and it's a sign of how far the club's come, and we're doing something right if Sky want to focus on us. Yeah,
we'll be on Sky Sports Plus a little bit. Which gives you more trepidation, Joe, being live on the telly away at Birmingham or away at the telly, get away at Bromley?
Well, Bromley is just one of our classic banana skins. We haven't got a brilliant League Cup record, have we? And it will be 11 changes made, and then we'll see how we get on. Treated almost as like a training match, really, is what we've done over the years. Even last year, we lost to AFC Wimbledon, didn't we, on penalties? But we should never lose these games, but we always manage to find a way to do so.
Yeah. Thank you to David, who's joined us. Great to have you with us. €5 on the Super Stick. If you want to do likewise, you can do so in the live chat in YouTube. But a thumbs up, always appreciated. But David, appreciate your continued support of the podcast. Thank you so much. And Colin, I believe will be on at least 30 times. I think you'll probably be right, Colin. And as the guys say, suggest we might be doing something right, which is always a positive.
Just hope there's not too many Saturday 12:30s or the lunchtime kickoffs. They're just the worst games, aren't they? Always.
Sunday, the Southampton game.
Yeah, I don't mind Saturday at 5:30. It's like, okay, well, that's a sort of decent kickoff time. It's like I say, it's when you get those 12:30 games on a Saturday or 12 o'clock on a Sunday. There's just no atmosphere in the ground ever.
Yeah, I agree with that. Again, no real segue. Joe, we'll start with you on this one. No, we'll come to Seb first. Sorry, I'll read my script. George Hirst signed a new contract late last week. Another player that's been tied down to a longer-term deal until the summer of 2029. All positive with this one, right?
Yeah, very much so. Great news. We kind of forget, don't we, given what Liam Delap did last season, how crucial George Hirst was for us in the 18 months since he came in the January window of the promotion season. And his numbers last year were pretty decent. He got 3 goals in the Premier League, goal and an assist away in the crazy 4-3 game at Brentford, got a couple in the Cup, didn't he? Coventry and Forest, and then the home Forest defeat and the equaliser at Everton. So it was something like 3 goals and an assist from probably less than half a dozen starts, I would think. So, Liam Delap got the headlines, fair enough, and he was the one that got the big money move. But George Hirst, what we want to do at this level in terms of, the 3 behind the striker are crucial. We saw that in the League One season, in the Championship season, and George Hirst is a better player to get more out of those 3, in my opinion. So more great news. Ashton and McKenna kind of said, or maybe just Ashton came out and said that this summer would be crucial to retain players. We did a lot of the building, obviously, for the Championship campaign last summer when we were tooling up to go into the Premier League, and keeping the likes of Dara O'Shea, who was probably 3rd or 4th favourite to be out the door at some point this summer, I would have thought. Getting him tied down is great work. George Hirst, there were links, weren't they, with Burnley and Leeds? You don't know how much of that is just the agent wanting to talk up the new deal and get it boxed off. But if we can keep him fit, and it is an if, but if we can keep him fit, then he pretty much ticks all the boxes for what you want from your leading striker, because he's physical, he's quick, he's got a great touch, he'll run selflessly, he'll drop deep, pick the ball up. I remember away at Chelsea, he was involved, sort of pinged the ball out to the right wing for Ben Johnson for one of the opening goals. And yeah, I think with him leading the line, if we can keep him fit, he's a great asset. And yeah, great news to have him tied in for another 4 years.
He's the first choice for the number 9 shirt, isn't he? You love squad numbers. This is your thing. He's getting that number 9, isn't he?
I'm not sure, because he could have had it in the past, couldn't he? And he's kept the 27. So I don't know if Joe agrees with me. I think he might stay with the 27.
I'd like to see him move. I think it'd be almost like Daryl Murphy moved from 27 to 9, didn't he? And then put that 27 goal season ahead of him. So maybe we'd rather see him do that than have a 9-goal season wearing a 27 shirt. Let's give him a 27-goal season wearing a 9 shirt.
There you go. Perfect. Love that answer, Joe. Very quickly, if you're Mark Ashton listening to this podcast, which I'm sure he does, and you're reading the chat and that kind of nervousness around deals, I guess he would say, playing devil's advocate, that keeping the likes of O'Shea and Hirst is almost as important as bringing players in. Would you subscribe to that?
Yeah, I'd say so, and it is true. But I'm sure internally there'd be as much frustration as the sort of sensible frustration externally. I don't think there's the, oh my God, panic, Birmingham are doing this and they're doing this, we get left behind. And if we don't sign 3 players by the end of next Friday, there's no chance we're going to get promoted. But I'm sure there's the, we need to get these bodies in as soon as possible, and we're waiting, but we don't want to be waiting too long because it is a bit of a high rope walk, isn't it? If you set your targets very, very high, you set them very, very high, and all of a sudden you miss out on one. And we've seen it over the last, well, nearly every window we've missed out on a striker towards the end of it. And it meant that in between September and December, we were having to see Ali Al-Hamadi play for us in the Premier League when he wasn't ready for it. The year before, we were seeing Freddie Ladapo play for us in the Championship when he wasn't ready for that. The year before that, we were seeing Ghassan Ahadmi play for us in League One when he wasn't ready for it. So it is a difficult situation. But yeah, you've got to do what you can do. But I think everyone's nerves will be settled a little bit, especially in that central midfield department if we get one of those in.
Yeah, we whilst we're manifesting Norman Amari next for a contract extension. He's asked it as a question, but let's have it as a statement, Norman. Let's put that out into the world. Business has been done, though, Joe. We need to pay credit to the club. A deal has been done. David Button signed a 1-year contract, didn't he? Goalkeeper on Friday. A tenured goalkeeper. He's 36, I think. He's been around. I'm assuming that he's not going to be first name on the team sheet, but do you want to talk to us about what maybe his role is?
Well, you'd assume it's just going to be a training goalkeeper. He's got, over 400 appearances in the English games. He's a very, very experienced goalkeeper, and no doubt that he's a good trainer, good character, known to Kieran McKenna from his time at Spurs. I think they'd have probably crossed swords at that point there. So it's just seeing what he's in for. But we had the chat a couple of weeks ago about the squad status, myself and Ben, and I think we basically came to the conclusion that we think it's going to be Palmer and Walton as the number 1 and 2, Slicker out on loan, Muric try and find somewhere for him out on loan or permanently, whatever we can do with him. And then it was a case of, are we going to use Henry Gray as the number 3 keeper to try and save a squad place? Well, I think this probably answers this question, that number 3 is going to be David Button behind Walton and Palmer. Like I say, I don't know what people think of that. I assume that seems a fairly common suggestion of what we're going to do. I don't think there's any future for Aaron Muric here, and sort of it seems clearer as more time goes by that that's probably the case, and I think that's where we've ended up now.
Yeah, Seb, what's your reading on the goalkeeper situation? I mean, I think Joe's right that third choice will be Button, which appears to free up some loan opportunities, doesn't it? But do you want to speculate on who might be first or second choice goalkeeper?
It's Alex Palmer, I think, isn't it? I think we'd all be shocked if it wasn't. I guess Slicker just needs to go and play some football. Hopefully he'll get a loan move and can go out and play himself, 30, 35 games. He was linked to the Scottish Premier League, was it, last summer, and that movement never materialised. So hopefully he can go and play some proper football. Aaron Muric, I think it's too much for him to mount a comeback now. We might see him maybe go on the pre-season tour, but I'd be amazed if we see him in a competitive Town game again. Christian Walton, there's a decision to be made, like Ben and Joe debated on their squad audit show a couple of weeks ago. Will he want to go and play football, or do you just say to him, you've got one year left on your contract, you're going to have to sit tight on it, and you can look to move on next summer and go and play football again? So Alex Palmer, for me, the number 1, and I agree, Button's going to be the third choice, isn't he? Who won't really feature, but he's one of those good characters you sometimes need around. We've discussed the likes of Burgess and Luongo in recent weeks have moved on, so maybe there's a little bit of an experience and a leadership gap, and if he can help kind of quell that, then that's his role as well.
You just wonder whether he's not even registered, whether he's here, because obviously David Martin signed last summer, and I think he was purely a coach. I don't think he actually was on the goalkeeper side at all in the end. But there's a lot of talk there's not a lot of talk. On the website, it states that David Button is going to be doing some coaching alongside this. Maybe he is just here as a 4th choice keeper and a coach. He's not going to be registered in the squad. And if we need an emergency, maybe he counts as an emergency keeper that you can register to put on the bench for a game or something. I don't know exactly the rules around goalkeepers, but it does seem, I agree with Kerr Avon there, that it's a bit of a waste of a squad place.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to Lee making the point that FIFA Muric probably only comes if he moves abroad. I'm not sure about. I'm going to advocate for Muric. I would not be surprised if he features a bit in pre-season. And I also think there was an interesting debate again on the excellent squad audit show, the two-parter with Ben and Joe, that in terms of the skill set of the three keepers that we have, I think people underestimate Muric's skills. They focus on the negative, quite understandably. It's a really interesting situation that I'm going to advocate for him, only because I went early to the point here from, I think it was Norman in the chat, talked about Southampton waiting and getting Ramsdale. I don't think we would ever get the budget sorted for that one, but he'd rather we waited for Ramsdale rather than go early like we did for Muric. I went early and got Muric on the back of a Goalkeeper shirt last season, and I feel like I'm the curse there. I don't know. That's a very selfish point. Moving on, continuing the thought about shirts. We're getting close to the bit where Joe and I get excited for the summer. Maybe we'll let Seb host the next bit. But in terms of like sponsorship stuff, Seb, all of this business stuff is important. It helps with the budget. It helps with the stature of the club. We've got the new front of shirt sponsor is Halo, heavily marketed there by Joe, but also McLaren F1, who had stellar day at Silverstone earlier today. Fleximize on the shorts. And Ed Sheeran has still got his, do you want to do this sleeve? There you go. You can't really make it out with the black and the white there. It's a bit more, but yeah, Ed Sheeran's Tingly Ted hot sauce. Has anyone tried that, by the way?
Yeah. Apparently it's Sainsbury's number one selling hot sauce.
There you go. Well,
someone told me that, and I'm spreading that as though it's gospel now. I haven't actually.
We're doing Ed's PR for him. Yeah, we do. Who cares? We're doing PR for Ed. But Seb, we looked at Birmingham situation, but I think Mark Ashton has said that the Halo sponsorship is pretty lucrative for a team at our level. This is not the sexy stuff about preseason, but it's important, isn't it?
It is, in a world of FFP and PSR and stuff. The more money you bring in, as Ashton always tells us, the more you can pump into the playing squad. And look, if Ed Sheeran was absolutely brilliant, obviously, was it 4 years he did? The sponsorship looked great. It looked great when he was wearing the kits on tour, but that was always going to come to an end. And I guess if you're losing kind of a local boy done good, then you want to keep the next deal local. We've managed to do that with all three parts. Fleximizer, Ipswich based as well, aren't they? Obviously, Halo have their headquarters in Stowmarket, and obviously Edge still retains an interest with the Tingly Ted stuff. So I think it looks great on the shirt. I like the way it's just clear and crisp and clean. And yeah, as you said, they've kind of got a partnership with McLaren F1 already, so they're no strangers to the sponsorship game. It's the worst kept secret. We knew it was going to be Halo for about the last 3 or 4 months, didn't we? And yeah, I think I'm happy with it, because you don't want gambling. Obviously, that's how Ed Sheeran came on the shirt in the first place. So many of the sides these days have the gaming or the gambling on the front of them, and that's what you don't want. And Ashton said if we were still in the Premier League, it would be one of the biggest non-gaming ones, and in the Championship it's very much at the top end. So great to keep it local, great that it's put a bit more money into the coffers, looks good on the front of those shirts, well, stands out nicely. So again, yeah, positive.
Yep. And as Seb brightly says, Joe, it's not Magical Vegas. It's not, is it Mr. Q at Watford, who, you could talk about this situation, Joe, for folk who haven't heard. Watford kind of openly admitting, yeah, we know this isn't for everyone.
Yeah, it looks rubbish. So they're selling it without sponsors on, and said, people, if you don't like the sponsor, just buy it without one on there. Join the queue for that. And it seems strange. I wouldn't want to do that, but yeah, Andy said their Halo sponsored the Snooker World Championship, and I say we've been very lucky with our sponsors over the years, from Fison's, Green King, all good local companies at the time, and Halo's another one I think is a real success story. I gathered from the videos that they're disruptors, because it was mentioned a few times. I don't really know what that means, but like for a sponsor, when you sort of want the things you tick, not gambling or sponsor, especially because a lot of these gambling sponsors are just fronts for companies. No one knows what they do. No one knows what BJ88 or Mr. Q or this does. This is a proper sponsor, proper local company, a company that's putting a lot of money back into its local community, giving good jobs to people in this area. Yeah, it seems to be a fantastic growing company, a real Suffolk success story, and to link up with a club of those is great. So yeah, well done, and thanks to Halo for looking so good on our shirts and dropping that ITSM that they had underneath it on the boards around it. It looks much cleaner just being Halo, and yeah, they are a company that's going places.
Yeah, nice one. Talking of sponsors, partners, people going places, people putting stuff back into the community. Let's hear from our friends, our sponsors at Wells. And we'll have a break and we'll be back to talk about the kits in a second.
Blue Monday is brought to you in partnership with Atwell Solicitors, your ideal legal partner for property and business law. Whether you're buying a home, starting a business, or just need legal guidance, our dedicated team has got you covered. Trust our award-winning customer service team to handle your legal matters with care and expertise. Find out more at atwells.com or visit us at our offices in Ipswich, Colchester, London, and our new location in Woodbridge.
That was seamless, wasn't it? And thank you to Atwells. They'll be a channel sponsor for the upcoming season for us here on Blue Monday. So we really appreciate their support. In terms of other bits and pieces going on around the place, there's an event coming up on the 1st of August. We spoke to Neil Prentice, who's written another kind of ITFC Legends book about John Walk. This time that comes out later in the autumn. Craig did a great chat with him. And there's an event with both John Walk and George Burley being hosted by the official supporters club at Henley Road Sports Club, 1st of August. The links are on Facebook, on the ITSC socials. We'll also tweet it out as well. And there may or may not be a familiar face getting involved in that as well. So, yeah, looking forward to that and raising funds for Cancer Sport Suffolk as well. So really good cause and potentially, almost certainly a great evening to be had there as well. In terms of other stuff, if you're a little bit wary about the lack of transfer business and what to get excited about potential targets, I voiced over a targets video by Jacobs for midfielders, which went out last week. And as always, we're kind of reacting to stuff as and when it happens at the moment. We might be back Sunday next week to try and get the kind of drumbeat, get our pre-season fitness up to scratch. But as and when hopefully stuff happens, you can find us reacting to it here on the channel. Do subscribe, and then stuff will just magically appear, and hopefully you'll see when we're going live as well. Kits. Shall I host this one, or Seb, do you want to try and talk us through this one? Because you've not seen him in the flesh yet, have you?
No,
do you want to give us your view from afar? Let's do that.
Yeah, I think the blue one is growing on me. When I first saw it, I was a bit meh. It looks fine, but having seen it again, a bit similar to the one last year, having seen it on you guys, kind of more in the flesh, I think it looks pretty decent. A lot of people said it looks like the Rangers kit. I don't really buy that. I like the kind of the detail with the cross stuff going across it and the red detail on the sleeves and stuff. Let me ask you guys some questions about it, because this is your area of absolute expertise. Let's be honest with this one. Who wants to go first? Tell me about the quality, or Joe, what's the quality of it like? Because in recent years, perhaps there's been a bit of an accusation the quality hasn't been the greatest. What's the quality like for this one, and what stands out for it for you?
Well, over the last couple of years, they felt a lot thinner, almost to the point that they look almost see-through at times. And it certainly doesn't feel like that. And I feel like the neck and the collars just feel a better quality than what they did last time. They I don't know, they had stitching around the necks last time, so they didn't finish properly around the necks on the away in the third, which were sort of really poor. And I don't know, I didn't particularly like the home one last year. I didn't like the colour of the neck on that one. And I guess one of the great things you see on this one is they do a long sleeved option, which I didn't think I liked. Then I got there and tried them both on in the shop. But actually, I really like the long sleeve and the home kit, so I went with that one. But yeah, quality wise, I'd say they feel better than they did last year. But obviously, it's still very early days, and after a few washes, we'll see on those.
That's the real quiz, isn't it, Joe? Yeah, I agree with it about the necks. I think they were quite tight for the home and away, and then you had the opposite situation. The kit that everyone was wearing out and about in Ipswich next weekend, the pink kit, had a really baggy kind of round neck collar, didn't it? Then kind of quite low cut, wasn't it? So I think this, definitely feels a little more pulled together. What I will say as someone who is kind of in between sizes is that I've dropped a size, and I have been trying to lose a bit, but I think there's a whole size gone. I think that the training wear was always a little bit baggier than the kits. And now I think there's a bit more equilibrium and consistency there. So I think someone in Telegram, Paul Westlake described it as vanity sizing. I'll take it because I've dropped a size. But yeah, I agree with Joe. I think the fit is good. I like the color. I also think it's one of these things where I think sometimes seeing them in the flesh makes all the difference. Because the red kit, let me put that up on the screen, I think has got a lot of, Joe's got the one in real life. There you go, Joe. Thank you. I think a lot of people, there were images going around, weren't there, before the official release, which I don't think helped. There's a story around the kind of detail on the red and blue, isn't there? It's the celebration of the new badge, isn't it, Joe? Can you?
Yeah, so you can see. It's difficult to do this here, but you can see like the horse, the sort of horse's hair on it, and the turrets of the castle on the badge. So yeah, there is some details there, but it doesn't really seem to have a big deal made about it. So I admit, I saw the leaked photo, which I think everyone saw of the away kit, and it long sleeve, and it just looked quite drab, I thought. And then when I went into the shop, sort of my youngest really liked it in long sleeves. I thought, actually, and he's worn it all weekend, and it looks really, really good. So yeah, so I was pleased with that. But yeah, I don't think it's a shame really that, because obviously a couple of photos leaked, and it wasn't really a big deal. It felt like the kit launch was a bit, I don't know, half-hearted. It was just the sort of video done with sort of Sam Smodics and Chua Benny and was it Sophie Peskin?
Sophie Peskin and Natalia Negri, yeah.
Natalia Negri on that side. And they just sort of had a game. And it's like, it reminded me going back years where it's like the launch was just J. Emmanuel Thomas in the ticket office making a phone call to Josh Carson and Luke Chambers turning up. And where last year it was like the whole Suffolk here, Wolfie was on top of the North Stand and someone was on the Orwell Bridge and Martin Roycer was there and Marcus Stewart was on a speedboat and all this stuff. And it seemed, I don't know, it just seemed, we had the pre-match show where they were like launched on Town TV. I don't know. I don't know if other people thought it just seemed a little bit, I was sort of, here's the kits, go and buy it and we'll just drop a few tweets during the day.
I kind of sell themselves though, Joe. There was a queue right outside the stadium before there was stuff out on Facebook, wasn't there, on Friday night, but maybe they sell themselves at this point. And the fact the sponsor's quite good wasn't, it's not Ed, but it's not something grotesque. Then I think it's blue. You can't really get blue and white wrong. I know Horseller has been in the chat earlier, said, hate to be hating, but I've never liked the red in the Ipswich colour palette, badge, trib, away shirt, both shirts for Rory Rangers. He says yellow and blue trim is the dream. I know there'll be a lot of the fan base, Seb, who like the kind of old school yellow badge. And yeah, I guess this is celebrating the new one, isn't it? But can't do yellow, can we, anymore? I don't think. A lot of people like it.
Yeah, I don't think so. I think that ship sailed. Do we know what is the diagonal on the home shirt? Obviously, the away shirt has the links to the 30th anniversary of the badge. Is that a specific thing, or is that just a pattern on the home shirt?
It's a bit turrety, doesn't it? But there isn't a huge.
If I can, I think James B mentions Fison's kit. I actually have. So these look. This is. I think it's an homage to this, which has got the same kind of diagonal. This is the 86-89 Adidas shirt, which looks almost identical, doesn't it? It's a very faithful replica apart from the three stripes on the sleeve. And even the away kit was the same kind of template as well. Sorry, there you go. Albeit without the red design. So it does feel an homage to the 86-89 kit. And I think all of us we were all just about alive, maybe Joe a little bit less likely, but I think we're all alive in that era. But before our time, I don't think it was a particularly successful one, was it, guys? I'm trying to remember that one.
It's the John Duncan era, isn't it? 86 to 89, effectively.
Yeah. So, I mean, it looks a very faithful. It's quite vintage. I think there's a West Ham Umbro shirt that's kind of very much tapping into that kind of vintage era. Yeah. But it doesn't feel like one that you want maybe to, I don't know, replicate or draw attention to.
No, I do tend to agree about the red in the Ipswich kit. That it sort of isn't, other than the sort of 92 to 94 kit, the sort of with the laces, the red laces on it. We don't really tend to have much red in our kit at all, do we? Other than the badge, and well, maybe there'll be a badge redesign to come soon. We've had this one 30 years now.
30 years, yeah.
Quite a long time. Quite a long time for a badge, really, isn't it?
Got to go circular.
Longer than we had the yellow badge for, because when I don't know exactly when that came in, but that's sort of in the mid 70s, was it? That came in, so we only had that for like 20 years.
There you go. Well,
give me your scores then, guys. This is presumably maybe the last season of the Umbro home shirt. It's our fourth one. We had the promotion League One shirt, the 2000 throwback shirt for the Championship promotion season, last year's pinstripes, and now this one. Where are you guys ranking this, and what's your overall 1 to 4 for the home shirts that we've had over the last few seasons?
Okay, I would go. I'm going to put this one as number 1. Actually, just get it out there. 1, and then the League One shirt as number 2, Championship shirt as number 3, and last year's shirt as number 4.
Yeah, I think I agree with 3 and 4. I'd swap 1 and 2. I mean, maybe it's sentimental reasons because of that League One season, that amazing time. But yeah, I think if this was the thing about the number 1 Umbro shirt was that it was homage to the 91-92 home shirt. So more again, my era. That was my first one. So So yeah, I think that would be. Give us your ranking in the chat for that, by the way. And if you want to score them out of 10, I mean, what would you score them out of 10? Let's reverse the question back to you, Seb. What would you score the home and away out of 10 if you were to rate them
for this year's?
Yeah.
Home looks. I need to see them in the flesh. For the home, I'll go 7. For the away, I'll go 6. But I need to see them in the flesh. I think if I see the blue one in the flesh, that might well jump up a bit.
Okay, well, we'll see what the chat has to say. But I mean, we've got a score from Colin here. He's going 8 out of 10 for the blue, red 5 out of 10. I mean, it's a kit, so everyone's entitled to their opinion on the kit, isn't there? There's nothing, we don't have to agree on that. And we've definitely got different views here, haven't we? What have we got here? 86 to 89. Lee mentions the good old days when kits were in fashion for longer. Bring back the 2-year, 10-year for a kit and alternate home and away.
But one thing I will say about the away kit, it is actually an away kit that doesn't clash with the home kit. That is the number one thing you need to get right with an away kit. And it's something we haven't done over recent seasons, including last year, where I remember the first time we wore it away at Wimbledon and it was pouring down with rain and the advertising borders were so bright and they're playing in a sort of a dark blue and we're playing in a dark purple. They're both covered in sweat, and you couldn't really tell the difference between the players at times. It's really, really difficult. So the first thing an away kit needs to be is a big contrast at home. And I don't think we did that very well in League One. I know the red and black, but another dark one. I thought the orange was excellent in the Championship promotion season. And I think this is excellent in that behalf as well. A totally different colour, which isn't going to look anything like a blue when we play against a team in it.
And we were exchanging messages, Joe, about it's rare. I mean, it happens that you've got kind of a similar template for the home and away. You correctly identified, was it 17-18 with Adidas when we had the red way? Was it the Waghorn season?
Yeah, that one there. We had the sort of home was blue, away was red, and they were exactly the same kit other than the colour.
14-15 as well. I think the orange and the blue were the same template. I like that as well, a bit of symmetry. And inevitably, guys, there'll be a third kit, won't there? And I don't know about you, I'm a big fan of the purple and green goalie kit that Natalia Negri was sporting too. So I haven't got the red one yet. I'm going to wait for, I think, that purple goalkeeper.
I think it's done the opposite with me, the goalie kit, where these kits have grown on me, where I think this one's gone the other way. The more I see it, the less I like it.
Okay, well, we'll see when we see it in the flesh. I think the purple one's the away one anyway. So you'll see more of the green one that's been out there. But yeah, give us your views. Tim, very strong opinion. Yellow should never be on a town kit or badge again. It's one of that lot's colours. Yeah, I think a lot of people,
it'd be more a gold than a yellow, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I was going to say mustard. That's the wrong word as well.
Not canary yellow.
No, exactly right. We've got Horseler. It's gone for a home 7, away 6. Even that's balanced and fair of you, Horseler, given you talked about the red palette. David's gone for 8 out of 10 for both. Good. Daryl says League One shirt for me. Oh, I think he's answering Seb's question, not making a critique of this season's kit. League One shirt is best for him as well. Eddie's going for a 7-6 home away. Gem 10, loving it. Away 7. Neil's going for a 7-6 blue red respectively. And we've got some rankings here from Norman. I think this chime. Oh, he's gone. Yeah, he's not a big fan of this season's shirt. Fair enough. Yeah. Everyone entitled to their views on this one. Agrees. Horseholder agreeing with you, Joe, about the maroon kit. It's a shame, really, because in theory I like a maroon kit, but it just doesn't work, does it? And they need to be different in terms of like the light and shade for those suffering from colour blindness as well. And it just doesn't do the job for that either, does it?
We should have learned that lesson in 15-16 when we had the Barcelona kit and we had to keep wearing an orange kit. It wasn't even available for sale. Yeah,
exactly right. So yeah, we've got Jeremy with his rankings as well. Maybe there's a video there. We'll do a 10-minute chat about that one. Colin speculating a white third kit. What do we want for a third kit, guys? Any preferences?
I've been told, or not been told, I've heard it might be black.
Okay, again,
I'd like a white. If it was my choice, I'd like a white out kit. I think Arsenal have done it a couple of times where everything is white. You just have a sort of an outline of the sponsor, an outline of the players' numbers in the back, an outline of the badge, but it looks like a total. I think they do it for sort of knife crime awareness is their one for. But I think they look really, really good. Obviously, with an important message. So
exactly right.
Too.
Yeah, Seb.
If it's black again, it will be presumably with you'll see the sponsorship this time and the proper badge rather than the blackout kit from a couple of years ago. White would be logical. I guess a case of watch this space. When did the other ones come out? Was it October, November time? Normally they tend to make an appearance.
I think it was October for the white one the year before, and I think last year the pink one was like September. It was quite early on in the season.
Okay.
because I think they needed it, didn't they, Joe? That's the trouble.
It was
To your
Tottenham the
point.
first time we wore it.
There must have been an earlier one than that. Otherwise, they wouldn't have released it so soon, would they? I don't know.
Yeah.
Not sure. If you know in the chat, let us know. But yeah, we'll speculate on that one, and we'll keep an eye on the keeper kits as well. Any questions? Now is the time to get them in for the guys. We will finish with your questions and your shouts for both Joe and for Seb. If you've got any kit views, let them come. If you've got any Oasis puns, I have kind of run out a little bit on that one. I was supposed to say "don't go away" before we did the Atwell's promo, but I forgot all about that one. So I'll chuck that one in. Don't go away. We've got questions coming up, and we've done the plugs as well. I've got a couple of bits, guys. From Seb, I'll come to you on this one. Kirk, losing some backroom staff and not replacing them is a bit of concern. That's a statement from Kirk rather than a question. But just to summarise that, some news from the end of the week. Head of operations Rich Carpenter is joined Birmingham. Birmingham appear to be very aggressively recruiting everyone on and off the field at the moment. And Ivan McCandy as well has joined Bournemouth, but I think has been immediately replaced from within. A guy called Dave Peacock is going to be a kind of strength and conditioning coach of the first team. Rich Carpenter, I think there's some extenuating circumstances there because I think he's from the West Midlands area and he used to work for Edgbaston, I think.
Yeah, I think it was Edgbaston and Birmingham, or like Coventry. All these jobs have been in the Midlands prior to coming to us. So
I can totally understand it. I've done the opposite. The A14 eventually gets to you and you have to move. But your thoughts on Kurt's kind of statement there, when you've kind of got a little bit of inaction in the transfer market, I guess people see that kind of stuff as you know, it's all pancaking in terms of bad news, isn't it?
It's inevitable churn that goes on at every club this kind of time of year, doesn't it? You know, people leave, people come in. Often managers will look to freshen up their backroom kind of staff every few seasons. Alex Ferguson was probably the best example of that, who would seemingly always replace his assistant manager even after winning, you know, multiple trophies. So it's a natural part of football. I guess Lee Grant going was kind of the biggest departure so far. He's moving on to Huddersfield a few weeks ago. There's not been a replacement for him. I know there was some rumours about Johnny Evans and stuff. I'm not sure anything was actually kind of official, or if that was just fan speculation perhaps. But you know, I guess Sonny Aluko was probably brought into the coaching fold last summer with a view to taking on the attacking coaching that Lee Grant was looking after. Lee Grant, I don't think made any kind of, it wasn't a surprise. He was looking to move into a full-time management job, so they would have known this moment was coming. And as of yet, for whatever reason, they decided not to replace him. I guess you could argue we've got a goalkeeper, extra goalkeeping coach with David Button joining us. So yeah, and I guess the fitness guy that's moved to Bournemouth, that's just like any regular job, isn't it? If a bigger company comes in for you and probably offers more money, you're going to have your head turned, you're going to move on. And it's great to see we've got that succession plan in place that we're able to promote instantly. That kind of is a testament to the work they do behind the scenes to ensure that any opportunities are easily snapped up internally. So bit of kudos there. But I think it's just an inevitable part of footballing summer, and staff leave, staff go. And yeah, I guess I'd be surprised if we don't replace Lee Grant with a more recognisable first team coach perhaps.
Okay. Well, you can't begrudge anyone going to go and work out the Avengers HQ in Bournemouth. If you haven't seen their new training ground, do give that a Google. Go on, Joe.
Yeah, I think it's just over previous years, we've had such a sort of skeleton staff that we're not used to. We just haven't had that many first team staff, strength and conditioning staff, fitness staff. That it's been minimal numbers, where we're now in a position where effectively all these guys are highly qualified, wanted to push on with their careers. They've come here. They're not from Ipswich, these people. I think even McCandy came from Arsenal, where he'd been working as their first team strength and conditioning coach. So he comes here as our head of strength and condition. He's now gone to Bournemouth and as an even higher job. So it's a further promotion at Bournemouth. And that's just how it is. These guys are going to be transient, and they're going to move up, and they're going to take better jobs when they come on offer, in the same way that I think we've moved somebody up from first team strength and condition to head of it. And then we've brought somebody in who was at Swansea, who's come across to be our new first team strength and conditioning coach. And these jobs, people are just going to move about because the good ones are going to get promotions, and there isn't enough. You can't promote enough of these people in-house because there's people above them in the thing that are doing a good job as well. So their option is either move or wait. And most people are going to move because there's not huge amounts of money in football staff. Football clubs don't pay brilliantly because they know people want to work in the industry. So the only way you're going to sort of get a good job is to keep moving on when you need to and getting into a better position so that you become a part of the club's furniture as opposed to tied to any particular regime.
Yep, great points, Joe. Yeah, totally agree with that. And we forget these are human beings. Geography is important. Aspiration's important, as you say. There's a point where the pyramid narrows, doesn't it? And the opportunities to get that
Yeah,
next job rely on people leaving, which they're not going to do.
And just on that point of sort of about geography, I live really close to the training ground here. I see probably like 6 or 7 staff on a Monday morning. If I'm leaving at like 7:30, 7 o'clock for work, 6 or 7 staff getting off the Route 66 bus just outside sort of my road where they park up and walk to training ground. These people are obviously people who must live in London to get the train up to Ipswich, to get the bus from there to the train station. And you sort of recognise them as some of these are the men in black shirts that walk around on match day. And they're, like I say, these are people having to get the train up, get the bus in, stay up here for the week and do that sort of work. So yeah, if you're going to find better jobs, and I say these are all working at a Premier League football club. I know we're not in the Premier League anymore, or for temporarily we're not in it, but you're working at one of the biggest clubs in the country. This is what you have to do to get your opportunity there.
Yep. Great points. Yeah, thank you for that shout there, Kirk. I had that in the agenda, and so did want to come to that, and thank you both for your answer for that one. Let's go back to the questions. Seb, Kerr, Avon, we were manifesting a new deal for Amari earlier from Norman's statement. Question from Kerr is, how confident are we keeping Amari now? 35 is a lot for 35 mil, a lot from a lot of Premier League teams. What's your take?
Very quiet, isn't it? Obviously, from his Instagram pictures, he's gone on holiday after his Euros under 21 success. 35 million quid is a lot of money. I still think he will move on this summer. It might be that the 35 million pound clause, a club might pay slightly less, and then we can kind of stagger it and add in things like add-ons and stuff to kind of get sell-on fees in the future. Perhaps I just think that Euros tournament, he was so good. When you put him in a better side than we were last year, he looks a lot more kind of comfortable, and the stuff he was doing in the Euros, I think, has really kind of elevated his position. I'd love to keep him. Obviously, 35 million is a lot of money, but if Brentford get 65 from Buemo, West Ham, it sounds like they're going to sell Kudos to Spurs. That could bring in 50, 60 million. They're the kind of clubs that I think would look at Hutchinson, look at his numbers, look at the data, and come in for him. And yeah, I do still expect him to move on. Frustrating.
And Borussia Dortmund has just sold Jamie Gittins.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
David Bergen asks, Joe, how many strikers do you think we need, and who? We've kind of dealt with this a little bit in the squad audit show, but do you want to give us your numbers and maybe give some names as well? Devin Mubama is not one, is it?
No, he's signed for Stoke on loan. But I think we need to, and I think Ali Al-Hamidi will probably head off somewhere else, whether on loan or permanently this window. But I think we need to, like George Hirst we know he's fantastic and he'll do a really good job for us this year. But like I say, when you see some of the players that are starting to move, like Norwich are in the process of signing a Danish striker for 12 million quid, who's been really, really good and is one that a lot of big clubs would have had an eye on, and they've beaten them to the punch on that and paid a big hefty fee. And you sort of wonder where are our strikers going to come from. One we were obviously heavily interested in was Mark Guiu, who is at Chelsea. They've now signed João Pedro, so he is their fourth choice striker behind Jackson, Liam Delap and João Pedro, but he is away at the Club World Cup. They won again last week. They've got a semi-final against Fluminense this week, so chances are they might not be back from that until next week, so that might be what's holding that one up. And even if it is, it's going to be a really difficult deal to do. We've mentioned sort of Richard Kone from Wickham on here in the past. I really like him, and I think he's one that could step up, but that's going to be a hefty fee. Marlo Ivanovic of Millwall is another one, very young. They signed him for a club record fee last year, which I think must probably be like 3-4 million. He's been linked with Parma today. He's probably going to cost 5 times that to get them out, 15-20 million, that sort of range. But someone who really sort of, I wouldn't say took the championship by storm, but someone who at like age 20 really, really got to grips with the championship, which is not an easy league to do so. Playing for a club with a fan base that demands certain things from their strikers, and they wouldn't allow sort of a namby-pamby striker up there who's not going to do his running and not going to win his headers and not going to battle. And that's all the qualities we want. So he's one I'd be very interested in. But yeah, it's going to, I say you're going to be looking at, if you want Guiu and Ivanovic or Kone, and you're looking at 30 million quid for a pair of those strikers. One, obviously Guiu might be a loan rather than that, but you look at, like I say, you're looking at 30 million there, then you look at the central midfielders and you think, well, you could easily spend another 25, 30 million on a couple there as well. There's a lot of money to need to be spent, and teams aren't scared to spend it at the moment. Like Birmingham have signed a Japanese striker. I think it's sort of like 5 million up front, rising to 10. And their Norwich, I mentioned earlier, spending 12 million on a striker. Hull were trying to sign someone, even though they're an embargo on a loan with a 9 million obligation at the end of it. There, Millwall have spent £5 million on Josh Coburn from Middlesbrough. Borough will spend money, they always do. Swansea are spending 4 or 5 million quid on these wingers. You look down the league, and the whole way down you look, and there is a huge amount of money being spent this league. It's going to be as we know it always is, going to be a really, really tough league. You sort of wonder why there's big spending going on now. Is it because there's only 4 parachute clubs in the league, and Leicester look like they're going to have a points deduction, so there is a sort of a chance to get up this year? So people are sort of rolling the dice this year. I don't know, but yeah, there's going to be some serious spending done this year.
Yeah, toughest league in the world, definitely. Norman asked about Leicester. I don't think we know anything about Leicester's punishment. I think Ben did a good show with Kieran Maguire, so worth listening to that. I think Leicester are still without a manager. Talking about the parachute teams, and Chris Wilder been linked there, hasn't he? Chris talks about the pink kit need to be released August for Sky and Premier League photo shoots. So maybe there was an issue about that being released, maybe, or leaked.
I think it might be released on the day of the Liverpool game. So it was very, very, it was early in the season, wasn't it?
Did we wear it at Brighton? Was that why we had to release it early? Maybe.
No, we wore purple there.
Yeah, Marina
and Man City.
Yeah. Seb, Michael, our mate from the pre-match show. What style of play will our keeper use? Short, long, or hashtag a bit of both? Any? I guess personnel choices to a factor here as well. But yeah, any expectations for style of play for the keepers now we're back in the Championship?
Well, as we saw last year, we're moving from a side that is kind of on the back foot the vast majority of games to a side that's going to look to dominate the ball and build from the back, and that will probably see a return to the Vasclav-Hadley kind of style of play, where it's going to be those short passes out. I'm not sure Palmer's long kicking is necessarily brilliant, so hopefully he can work on his short passing game over the summer. Muric with the ball at his feet is very, very good at this level, as proven by his season with Burnley a few years ago, but as we discussed, it's probably too far gone for him. So I expect to see that return to either, Morsey dropping deep and Palmer finding him on the edge of the area, or there's quick little balls out to Greaves and O'Shea, who would like to be the starting centre-backs and look to build through the thirds and kind of move the ball forward that way.
Fair dues. Joe, do we know anything about memberships and away tickets and stuff? Won't be too far away, will it?
No, it can't be, because we're going to need to be selling tickets for the Birmingham game, which is in a month now, isn't it? What's it, 6th of August, 7th of August. Then we've got Bromley to come after that, which is going to be a bun fight, because there's probably, I don't know how many people have got full points. I guess how many people went to Bournemouth, 1,200. So I guess but I think there's probably only about 500 or 600 tickets at Bromley. So good luck to everyone on maximum points for that one.
And Colin asked earlier about away travel, particularly for the Aberdeen game. I think that's one where the club is letting people sort themselves out, isn't it? There's no official chartered train or plane going up to Aberdeen that you know of?
No. I'm sure somebody could get a jet ski and take you around up the coast from Norwich or something like that. Yeah. Get out to Yarmouth and get on a boat and fly around from there. But no, that is a long old poke, as they say, up to Aberdeen.
It very much is. I'll stay with you on this one, Joe, from Jordan. Last Championship season, we made moves for Scarlett, Amari, Williams on loan to bulk out our squad. With the squad at current levels, do we need or want loans from Premier League clubs? Do they add anything?
Well, they certainly add something. Amari Hutchinson especially added something there. Brandon Williams did whilst he was here, sort of mentally and physically while he was here. He was certainly adding something. But we're now in a position where our squad, we've looked at it, we're at like 20. We are at, I think, with David Button, probably at 26 or 27 senior players. So it's very much one in, one out for what we need to do. And moving players on is not going to be the easiest thing to do. And when you look to see who's going to need to move on, there's obviously a few obvious ones. Elkin Baggett, Kieran Slicker, Ali Al-Hamadi is ones that you can move on. But then if you're looking at a central midfielder, you're at the position, it's like, does Cam Humphreys have another loan spell away from the club? Or do we trust him and maybe Jack Taylor, we try and sell him in the last year of his contract? Similar to Nathan Broadhead, is he one that you try and move because he's in the last year of his contract and you want to try and get a fee for him? But you are at that stage where you've got 25 good players here already. So you're not just going to be taking a Dane Scarlett on the last day of the window because you haven't got anyone else you can get in, because you just need a striker to try and get someone in and hope that they work, because you're going to have to lose a good player to bring someone in.
Yeah, a little bit jiggery poke, bit of shaker maker needed there, managing the squad.
Let's
Do we know?
let's hope we don't make a Dixie's dinner out of it.
There you go. Trevor asked about overseas recruitment up and working, and isn't there a job advert out there for a head of recruitment, or have I made that one up? I don't think we know.
No, I think there's some jobs out there for recruitment, but sort of up in the north and the Midlands. I think rather than overseas, we don't know about the overseas market. We hope it is. There seems to be value there, and it feels like we've had long enough to get there now, because we obviously spoke about it last year. We just needed to hit the ground running to get into the Premier League, and you wanted players who were accustomed to English football as the main thing. But let's say Birmingham brought in, I think, 4 or 5 Japanese players now. There's a lot of shopping going on in Scandinavia, Germany, France. There's some really interesting players coming in.
Yeah. Thank you to Daniel for confirming the Pink Kit launch the week before the Liverpool game. Seb Horsehollerer asking, do you think we need another right back, or are we good between Johnson and Clark and even O'Shea?
I think there's other areas of the squad that we have to address first. Obviously, Joe mentioned how much it might cost to get a couple of central midfielders, and you're going to need a striker to kind of play with kind of dovetail with George Hirst. So I think they are areas of priority first. Ben Johnson was never trusted in that role. We never really saw it, did we? He was often playing much further advanced. He's a Premier League right back who's kind of he must have roughly 100 Premier League kind of appearances or so. So you would think he will adapt to the Championship pretty easily. And obviously last year it was much more of a kind of, not a back against the walls, but, Tuan Zabi was able, with his recovery pace, to kind of look after those flanks, those opposition players. You would like to think next year the right back won't be as necessarily tucked in. Leif Davis will still bomb down the left, but it might be more of a kind of not as a defensive option, in which case I think Ben Johnson would be okay with Harry Clark as the backup. If something comes out the blue and you can do something that's relatively inexpensive, you probably look to do it. But there are certainly other areas of the squad that need attention first.
Sorry, with Ben Johnson, I didn't check all his other competitions, but in the Premier League, I think, including with us last season, I think he's only actually started 25 Premier League games at right back over sort of like 6 seasons as a Premier League player. So whilst he was a Premier League player with a lot of appearances, I think a lot of times he's just filling in at left back or centre mid or right mid here or there, or coming off the bench. So yeah, he's started very, very few games as a right back. So he really needs to, for the good of him, nail down a position, see what it is. And I think the one that suited him was that right wing back role, but I don't think we're going to need a player like him in that role this year. So maybe he's one that gets moved on, and a team that plays with a sort of like a back three in the Premier League might be a better bet for him.
Who knows? Well, if that happens, then we'll have to move, won't we, to Seb's point. So for now, he's featured very heavily in our preseason imagery, hasn't he? So we'll wait and see. Thank you everyone who's got involved. Don't forget to give us a thumbs up on YouTube, a 5-star rating on your podcast, the app of choice, before you sign out, and do subscribe. There's some really exciting news we have coming up towards the end of the month. I'll probably let Ben divulge that one, but some really good stuff happening around the channel that we can't really talk about at the moment, but we will definitely keep you in the loop about as the season gets closer. And as I say, we'll be back. If anything, hopefully something happens this week positively that we can react to, we'll be here. Joe, do you want to say goodbye?
Yep. Like I said, we didn't feel the need to fire up the emergency pod klaxon for the David Button signing, but any future signings, me and Rich will be here ready to go.
Absolutely right. Seb as well.
Keep the faith, everybody. Let's hope we get at least one through the door before we fly out to Austria a week on Monday.
Thank you both for your time this evening. Thank you everyone in the chat for getting involved as well. I haven't got an Oasis pun to sign out on, but do watch the intro. That's probably my best work on Blue Monday, I think. Enjoy your weeks, look after each other, and we'll see you soon.